All right, to start, you're going to have your water. So you have a water cup. You also have your paint palette. So I'm going to talk to you real quick about mixing watercolors appropriately. First of all, we don't ever dump the water into the containers. I'm going to go ahead and pick the color that I want. So I want like an orange color here. I'm going to go ahead and take my brush and dip it into the water, and then I'm going to basically add the water, but also kind of swirling that brush around and trying to pick up the pigment on here, because clearly these watercolors are dry. So the way to activate the paint is to wet your the color that you would like. So you can see here how I'm kind of rolling that around to get the pigment on. The other thing too about watercolors is that we want to keep it transparent. So part of this practice then is to make sure that I can control the amount of water to where it keep it transparent, but not so much water that's going to bleed everywhere. So what I want to do now is I already have paint on my brush. I'm going to go ahead and practice a little strip here and see if I can get it to control. Now, if we look at this really closely, it's way too much paint. It's actually really thick. So what I can do is a couple options. I can move that paint around, okay, if I have a larger area to fill, or I am going to clean my brush out completely, dry it off with a paper towel, and pull that watercolor around. Now you can see the amount of paint I had and how much coverage I'm getting with that one little bit of paint. That's what's important. So I have kind of painted over some of the pen marks here, and you can tell that it's that transparent that we want to be able to see some of your mark making underneath. Okay, so because I had too much, I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush out, kind of dry it off, and just grab just a tiny bit now. Since the top of that palette was wet, now I can just grab just a little bit, and maybe now tap it on the edge of my brush or the edge of my paper towel, and now maybe, there we go. Now I can get a little bit smaller of a section here, and it's still transparent, but there's not so much in my brush that I have too much of a coverage. So just a little bit of paint and a little bit of water to be able to paint inside your tiny sections. Now, what happens if you get too much, like we talked about? Let me see if I can get too much. Okay, I have too much on my brush. Do you see how it's really bubbled up and it's like a puddle? That I'm going to lose control, okay? I'm going to lose control. It's going to drip everywhere. So this is not correct. But what if it happens? So I've got too much of a puddle. I can take this paper towel and very gently press and lift. This is called blotting. So I've taken out quite a bit of that liquid. I'm going to do it one more time. And now it's a lot lighter, okay? Then I could take and rinse my brush out and kind of very gently smooth that over, okay? So you can notice I only blotted twice. If I blot too much and move it, then I'm going to end up peeling my paper. So we want to be able to stain the paper, and we want to be able to control the amount of water. The next thing you're going to do is practice on your subject a little bit. So I'm going to take that brush. I already know that my paint is working because I've already tested it. I'm going to grab a little bit of my orange, and I'm only going to put it where I want the orange to be. So this area is pure white, okay, of the section, and these areas are orange. I also know that this is orange as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just paint the body. And you're going to notice too that I'm going to go real close to the edge. I'm going to drag that brush nice and smooth. I am going to work pretty quickly because I want to move the watercolor and I want to keep it smooth. I'm going to go around my glasses as best I can, controlling the paint around my eyebrows, because the eyebrows I'm going to have a different color. Since I've painted this section, I could actually get a tiny bit of red if I wanted to, because we know that red and orange like each other. And I could maybe dot a little bit of red underneath that fin. And then I'm going to grab some clear water and just kind of touch the edge of that with my brush. And the water kind of makes it blend a little bit. So now I got a little bit of a shadow. And that's all we want. We don't want a big deal on this. We want just very light paint, and we're basically just filling in some of these bigger sections. Now the edge of my fin is going to be pure black for my shading, but for now it's just going to be filled in with my watercolor because I know I'm going to go back over it. I can even take this and go right over my pencil line. Even if I accidentally get it into my lips a little bit, it's not a big deal, because if I keep my watercolor really light and transparent, I'm going to be able to add a darker color over the top later. And I want you to notice I control my water, I control the color of my paint, controlling the edges, and whatever mark I put down, and basically just dragging that through. And that one little mark is going to take up that entire space. A little bit of water so that I can move it and continue to move it around. Okay, and then if I'm good and I want to add a little bit of the other colors with it, I can. Once that's dry, let's say I want my lips pink, but I accidentally got out of my pencil lines, that's okay. Because if I do that and I want my lines, maybe my lips are going to be blue lips. I want blue lips or purple. We're going to do purple lips. So because I accidentally got my orange over that, it's okay because my purple can go right over the top, still controlling the amount of water and the amount of paint and filling it in. And I'm not shading my lips at all because I can do that with a pen over the top. If I want to add a little bit of shading, I could even lift out a little bit of a highlight because I kind of got it a little too dark. So I added a little clear water and I pressed and lifted to be able to make that spot a little lighter. So we're just going to continue to block out basic shapes of color, and then once it's dry, then we'll go back in details with your paint. Again, remember transparency and control. Something else you might want to try is our watercolor pencils. So basically you can lightly color in with the watercolor pencil. You could even maybe take another color of the watercolor pencil and like an orange maybe, and color in and layer like you would a colored pencil. And then you can take water and a little bit of water and you can put that over the top and get that to blend. You might like this for some smaller details. The problem is that when I'm doing that, I'm getting too much water and I'm losing control a little bit. So I'll lift some of that water out and then go back over it. So you might like that. Let's see if maybe that will work on my sunglasses. I'm going to press and lift and just fill in with my watercolor pencil. You notice I am pressing and lifting like I would a pencil. And then I'm going to take my little tiny brush, a little bit of water, and then I can move that color around and trace. So I think that this would be good for little details for your finished piece.